Senator Wyden, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and let me just make sure everybody knows about your tenacity in pursuing these contracting abuses. I think so often somebody holds a hearing or two or maybe puts out a press release or something like that. I think this is now your 20th discussion, 20th forum to look at these issues, and I just want you to know how much I appreciate particularly your tenacity, because unless you drill down into these issues, no real reform takes place. So we very much appreciate the way you're going about it. And I want to thank Rocky Bixby in particular for coming. I think he knows that our office has watched this issue unfold for some time. One of my former aides had a brother, Nick Thomas, who served in the Guard, went to Iraq, pulled Guard duty at QA, and died of leukemia at age 21. And Mr. Bixby, what I want to establish, I think, in this hearing, and perhaps it gets into a little bit of a different area that's been discussed, is that the chemical that was dumped out by enemy soldiers was done in order to poison the American soldiers that were sure to follow. Now, this has come to light in some of the earlier Senate testimony that the deadly chemical was spread all over the area, and the Iraqi army sabotaged the facility before they were forced to leave. But what can you tell us about this question of the chemical being dumped out deliberately by the enemy soldiers in order to poison our people, our soldiers that were coming not long after?
I can say that it looked like it had been dumped out all over the facility. I mean, there was no reason why it needed to be scattered out like it was. They had bags, you know, that were stacked up that they could have just left the stuff there, you know, but it was scattered all outside of the facility for over, I don't know, a 25, 50-yard area. So somebody had to go out of their way to do that.
That's my sense. You don't get powder released all over the place in the way that was described in the Senate testimony and in the way that you've described, unless somebody is deliberately doing it. I wonder if one of your colleagues wants to touch on this. I saw people nodding their head as well. Do any of you want to get into this issue as well?
I'll tell you like this. I'm sure some of the Iraqis had their faults, you know, putting it in certain places where we'll enter or exit the water treatment facility. But when we got there, we knew they sabotaged the oil refineries, the water treatment plant, and just basically left the whole place in disarray. When we got there, it's like I was trying to tell everybody, we didn't just see it laying on the ground. We used those open bags as firing positions. We put our guns on top of them, like we used them like sandbags, and basically furniture. Ate there, really. But Iraqis, I'm sure they had their motive, and we're pretty much finding out now.
I also think that it's important to get to the bottom of this, because according to the Army regulations, the Purple Heart is given for injuries that are caused by enemy-released chemical, biological, or nuclear, agents. And certainly our troops who have faced these extraordinary risks when they go into combat, they shouldn't have to battle their government to stay protected from toxic chemicals on the front lines, and they ought to make sure that those of us in the Congress are working for appropriate recognition of their extraordinary sacrifices. So I think this has been a very helpful hearing in terms of all of you outlining the threat to service members that's exposed to harmful chemicals. Suffice it to say, this has been a problem that's gone on for a long, long time. This is not the first instance of this. People know about Agent Orange in Vietnam, Gulf War syndrome, certainly two examples that people are familiar with. But I'm going to get to the bottom of this issue with respect to how these chemicals were dumped out, because I'm convinced enemy soldiers did it in order to poison our people that we're sure to follow. What you all have said today highlights that, and we're going to make sure that steps are taken now. when there's some reform in the air to curtail these contracting abuses, protect our soldiers from these kinds of horrendous health threats, and make sure that they know their country's behind them. So thank you all, particularly Mr. Bixby. It's a long trip from Oregon, and you wanted to make it to stand up for folks in the service, and we really appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.